Hey everybody, Gisele Grenier here from artplace.ca. Today we're going to be working on a Book of Backgrounds project, and it's going to be collage. So as I'm going on, I just finished doing a little video segment about the layout of my desk, and now you're going to see from this point forward, you're going to see the same paints laid out in front. I may use them all. No, I won't use them all. I will never use all these colors in one project, but I'm going to be doing a little bit more color mixing. Some of the emails that I've been getting, I've been answering in these videos. From this point forward, I'm spending a bit more time doing color mixing. With the economy, people are saying, do I have to buy, 40, 50 tubes of paint or bottles of paint to do, whether it's art journaling, mixed media, specific for my specific art classes? And I tell people, no, you don't. With even less colors than this, you can create thousands of mixes. But this is my standard palette of color, which I can color mix thousands of mixes out of this. Okay, I remove certain colors when I'm doing my fine art pieces. So really with 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, with 11 paints, and then black and white, and black even's iffy because I don't use carbon black very often. So 11 paints plus white, that's all you need. Okay, and I do have color theory videos available if you'd like to take a look at those. So what I tell people is, if you're going to be doing a combination of journaling, mixed media, and fine art, use less paints, but get better paints. So don't go and buy craft paint if you want to do a lot of fine art work. Invest in artist quality paints, but you won't need as many. And because they're so rich in pigment, you'll need less. So for everything, even dioxazine purple, I don't need for journaling and mixed media. I use it because it's transparent, but I can easily get a color similar to dioxazine purple with ultramarine blue and permanent alizarin crimson. Dioxazine blue is extremely vibrant and is a single pigment. You will never get a intense pigment by mixing two colors. A single pigment is always the most intense, but the minute you mix two pigments, you will lose a little bit of intensity. But most of us don't go for neon colors when doing fine art anyways. The other colors I take out of my palette is transparent yellow iron oxide and red iron oxide. I can use these in a background, and I use these because they are transparent. Transparent red iron oxide is like a transparent burnt sienna. Very similar in color, okay, but it's transparent. Yellow iron oxide is very similar to regular yellow oxide, okay, except it's transparent. A little bit more on the orange side, okay, or the neutral side, okay, but it's transparent. So that's why with these it's iffy, or I don't need really to use both. Black I don't typically have to use because I can take burnt sienna and ultramarine blue to get a chromatic black. And so all that stuff is covered in my color theory videos, and I show you how to get tons of colors just with a very limited palette. So with the collage we're going to do today, I'm just using the backs of existing pages. You can do this on on Masonite, canvas, but I suggest for if you're working through the Book of Backgrounds and then basically the whole Bob and Doug project, is to work. This is a Strathmore Visual Journal. You can use a handmade journal, but all that's covered already in the beginning, so you don't need to worry. For my collage material, I'm going to be starting slow on the collage material because I'm going to be building it up through as each segment goes. For this particular workshop, I'm going to be working with book pages and maps. So what I did is I alter books, and as I cut out things for niches, I keep all this stuff. I don't get rid of any of this stuff. And this is a very, very old book that had no value to it. Well, I bought the book for $1, and the value of it I think was $20, but it would cost me more than $20 to get pages like this. Very, very old paper, and it's brittle. It's yellowed because of time, so I use this stuff. I even have a beautiful book cover on it, and there's a page here, beautiful page. I'll save this for a very special journal page. The maps, this is all the maps that Joe and I had accumulated. Well, not all, this is about half what Joel and I have accumulated when we were doing a lot of hiking, and when I was doing my plein air TV, internet TV show. And these are all the maps. But now, with the use of a GPS built into cell phones on 2 different cell phone networks, you know, sometimes GPSs aren't always correct, then we don't need the maps anymore. There's you know, some pretty nice things in here. Brochures. You can also use brochures for, you know, to use as collage material. And so we're going to be using that. So it's because it's a secondary background, you don't really even need to totally worry about what type of map that you're going to be using. But I want something. See, this is a very animated map with a lot of heavy-duty lines in it. So you could use that, but if you want something a little bit more subtle, go for, you know, like a standard map. And then you can pick and choose your colors. So if you want something that's more green and something that's more pink, and you can even print out maps over the internet. Okay, but these, you know, I already paid for them, so don't need to. Oh, that's heavy. I don't need to buy the material. I'm going to grab some paper towel. Paper towel is a must when you do collage work. So with working on creating a background based on collage, I'm only going to do one at a time. It doesn't really matter what's on here, and I'm thinking now I probably should have used something more clean because I'm liking all these marks here. You know what? I'm going to do that. I changed my mind. I'm going to use pages that are clean because I like these marks and I want to incorporate these into another background. So I'm just going to use the backgrounds of these 2 because they're fairly clean. All right. If you're working on a fresh sheet, what you'll want to do is your paper needs to be of good quality, because if you're using flimsy paper to collage it, you're going to have to collage it so thick so it'll be able to hold everything, and it'll take you a long time. The Strathmore Visual Journal is a very heavy stock, but if your paper isn't that thick, I'll just show you how to do this, is take some gesso. And when you use anything out of a container like this, get into a habit, and I don't. When you're finished, just take a baby wipe. Just while it's wet, wipe the mouth of the jar. Okay? So when you put the cap back on, it'll be easy to unscrew. What I didn't do that, and the paint dried. And what you don't want to do is get any of the paint flecks inside your gesso. I have 2 sets of art products. I've got one set that I use. It's the same traditions, like all the same supplies, but I have one that I reserve specifically for fine art painting, and then my mixed media journaling, that if I do happen to get flecks in this one, I don't care. It's no big deal. But with my fine art supplies, I am going to care if I happen to get paint flecks if I'm doing a portrait, a commercial piece of art. So if you use the same materials, the physical same materials for, you know, good stuff and play stuff, then you'll need to spend extra time to not contaminate your materials. Where's my brushes? Oh, reach. So I'm going to use a foam brush. You can use a foam brush, you can use a bristle brush. Oh, and then I think in the book of backgrounds, I think in number 14 or 15, I was using this brush and how it gets streaks. And I said usually if you take a brush that's been hardened overnight with paint, soak it and wet the brush, soak it with a few drops of 1000+ stain remover, also known as winning colors. Look, the brush is back to normal. All the paint came out. And it was actually some medium that I left in there overnight. So you can bring your brushes back to normal. If your paper is a bit thin, you could just take a little bit of gesso and you can just scrub it on, and I'm using the brush dry. If you put a a lot of water in on your piece, when you're actually doing the priming, your page is going to curl. Water is what makes the pages really curl. Whether your paint is really watery or you use mediums. If you use paint in its raw format on this, it's not going to absorb so much into the paper, therefore your paper will not curl. So with a brush you can do this, and if you're doing this to create texture, then you can take your brush and just scrub, 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 and then you'll get some nice texture in there. If you want a finer finish, then you can do X strokes like this, or use a foam brush to apply your gesso. And just left, right, and as you're smoothing everything out, reduce the pressure on the brush, and then you'll end up just fanning and just softening everything there. So really, all you need to do is just, get that on there. If you're doing a fine art piece, for any time you use gesso, you really should let the gesso cure for 24 hours. So what you can do, if you're not sure about your journaling, if you're going to really want to keep it, it's just for curing, okay? Prime your pages all at the same time. Just let them sit for a day, and there you go. You're ready to go. If you're just playing, then you don't really need to worry. But if you are priming canvases or Masonite, let them sit for 24 hours. Okay? So there's one. I'm going to do only this one here with the gesso because I want to do the other one without gesso, just so you can see the differences. And you know what? You won't. Because we're using the gesso for this purpose, for priming and prepping a surface. Because we're going to collage, you're not going to see anything. This is only used to basically stiffen up the paper, prime it, so as I put the paint on, the medium, it's not going to soak in the paper and curl it. This has actually created a nice seal on it. And you can see where it's shiny. And you can see here, and where can I show you? Come on, when I want a proper glare, I can't get it. Where? Okay, see right here, you can see, there you go. Here, there's no gesso there. Okay, so you make sure you cover everything. And as it starts to dry, now let me get my heat gun. Okay, I'm going to leave it like that. You should be able to see the shine there. As it starts to dry, it'll go into a flat finish. See how it's disappearing? It's going into a flat finish. And that's a really good way to know if it's dry. Depending on the gesso you use, especially if it's thick gesso, good thick gesso. I use the DecoArt acrylic gesso for my for just background work, and I use the Permelba gesso for a lot of texture because it's ground marble dust. Okay, it's really, really, really thick. So I use between the two. Especially when you're using the gesso thick, let your page dry naturally. If your gesso is so thick, or even any paint material, if it's so thick, if you use a heat gun, all you're doing is drying the top of it, and the inside is still wet. Okay, good acrylic products are more flexible, so as the water starts to evaporate and it starts to contract, then you're not going to have any cracking. Unlike oils. Oils, sometimes you will get cracking, but keep in mind that if your paint product is very thick, avoid using a heat gun. Let it dry naturally. Let everything just, the water evaporate naturally, because if you use the heat gun and you seal the top layer, the water is going to take it's going to take a lot longer for the water to evaporate out of your paint product. Okay, so just let it dry naturally. So do everything ahead of time if need be. So I'm going to put this aside, and I'm going to grab the other page, and then we'll start working on our first collage. So the other piece is fairly thick because I've got all this texture crackle on it, so I'm not going to have to worry about putting any gesso on here. Let's move that aside. Let's just get the paints back organized. So I'm going to close this. Put that over here. And I'm just going to start randomly tearing just pieces. You can tell I'm not spending these. Now these are road maps. I prefer the actual area maps. I don't even know if I have any of those. Do I have area maps? Street maps are not very pretty. Street maps are not pretty at all. No, I don't think I have an area map. So even this is not too bad. Use that. Use that. Use this. See, I'm just pulling stuff out. And let's just grab something here for some color. There we go. The key with collage is that unless you're covering an entire surface, it's nice to get all these oddly shaped pieces. So I'm going to do one with a map, and then the other one's going to be the book pages. We need the decoupage, and I have a little container. Now this container is a little bit bigger than necessary, but because I'm doing a whole bunch of collage, it's easier working out of this. Now you can thin down the decoupage with a little bit of water. As you can tell, this is a bottle that I've been properly cleaning. You can thin down the decoupage with a little bit of water, not too much though, because you will break down the strength of the glue. And when I use decoupage, I do not use a fancy brush. Nice big brush. Even the gesso brush would have been fine, the brushes for gesso. But this one here, in water, a little bit of paper towel. And depending on what you're using for material, usually you can tell when you put it down. If you find that you're really struggling to spread it out, then dampen your brush a little bit more frequently, or add a few drops of water in there. Okay, so this is actually pretty good. Where I find that it gets really stiff is after I've been poured in here. In about an hour, it will start to stiffen up as the water evaporates out of it. Now think of decoupage material as non-yellowing glue. Okay, so I use it as a sealer as well. And you can do it now on the craft mat. This is the Ranger craft mat, which is what I love using for is because I can do this type of thing and get it right on the craft mat, and when I'm done, all I have to do is wipe this off, and I just spray it with a little bit of water if it's dried, and it'll wipe off really easy. When doing the layers, basically all you're doing is just gluing the pieces down. Now if you're using a journal page that's, now again, sorry, let me back up a bit. This is the way that I do it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the right way to do it. A bunch of artists have their own way of doing collage, so please check out other methods and that, but this is just my way of doing it. If you're using a journal page that's much bigger, then you can basically take random pieces and just overlap them, then cut them at the end. But if this is or if you're working on Masonite, canvas, or a journal page, or whatever, and that's the size you have to work with, then you will need to go on to pieces to get the actual hard edges. So for example, the only hard edge I have on this is this piece here, and I can either overlap it and cut it, or just move it down a little bit. Okay, like so. And then find something that has an actual hard corner, which in this one does. Or you can, if you really want to do it right, then you could just with scissors, and then you can get something right there. Okay. When you're working with collage, every layer you add, if it's still wet, it will take twice as long to dry. So if I were to do this piece here, and then let's say now I'm going to take my brush, I'm going to add more decoupage to this. And then let's say now I'm going to tear a piece. I'm going to put this here. I'm going to layer this. Then let's say I'm going to take this piece, put this down here, and layer this. This will take quite a long time to dry. But if I'm prepping the pages, it doesn't matter because the pages are going to sit to dry anyways. If you're doing this as a single session, like if you're doing your whole thing all in one session, then what you may want to do is do one layer. Okay, maybe take your heat gun and draw, or even thin down your decoupage with a bit of water to thin it down so it'll dry faster. Just not too much. You don't want to break down the strength of the glue. And I just like dipping my brush in water. It would help if I actually hit the water. Okay, and just do that. And then basically all I'm going to do is I'm going to overlap this by a little bit. This one has a folded edge on it. I'm going to leave it. The decoupage is so strong that you'll have immediate contact. And just a little bit more here. Try to keep it nice and thin. You don't need globs and globs and globs of it. And overlap the shapes. I have to admit, I did have trouble collaging in the beginning because my formal education is fine art. And I did collaging and stuff when I was much younger, when, you know, my kids were babies and stuff like that, you know, play it with home decor stuff. But for art, I didn't do a heck of a lot of collage. And the one thing that I did find with collage is if your pieces look like they blend into the background, that's how they look the most natural, where they don't look like they've been just placed. And I found, and that this is just me, the torn image method is the way that works for me. Now, if I wanted to keep this visible for Oakville, I could just place it and not put anything on top of it. You can also use your collage to guide how the page is going to go. So why don't we, now I made a mistake on the last journal. I turned my page upside down. Oh, this one doesn't matter. Why don't we just place this one right here? And we'll leave the name visible. Now this material, now when you put your paper down with a decoupage, I can only speak right now for the actual decoupage from Deco Art. When the minute you make contact with it, it does stick. You can move it a little bit because it's such a very strong medium. You can only do so much with it. The adhesion on it is so strong. Oh, I like this Niagara. So why don't we tear that a little bit? This is the line for the escarpment. I like odd shapes, so I could put that right there. You can see I'm just kind of overlapping, and I don't really put a heck of a lot of thought into it per se, of being, you know, nitty gritty on the shapes and stuff and all that, you know, that type of thing. I am careful to look at shapes and stuff like that. I won't put a square unless that's the way I want it to look. What I do want to do is take advantage of this. Is it the same shape? Oh! Get out. I could never be that lucky. But I could never be that lucky. It is a same shape. Okay, let me rip this apart. I want to take a page out of this. It's the same binding. I want to take this where I don't break the squares. Because I don't know if I'm going to use the pages as is in the actual book when I rebind it, because I don't like working in a manufactured book, but by the time this is done, it'll be truly homemade. Okay, let's use this, because this is where am I? I live, where the heck am I? Highland Road, Upper Mount Albion. I live, King's Forest, I live, right, where's Lime Ridge? I live right there. Right here. So this is Hamilton, and we have Stony Creek, Glenbrook, Dundas, Flamborough, Burlington. There's Oakville. Okay, and Toronto is way over here. But I live right there, right by Mount Albion Falls. So let's use this. Let's use this for something. So, you know what? I'm going to go right over everything. All it's doing is building up the strength of the page. You know, because I want to keep any more water. I want to really utilize the binding on that. See, with this I would have had to have been stuck and would have had to do something. But what I will do is I will tear. Dundas is beautiful. And where we go for, let's see, where are we here? Where I go for training for Mia is way over here. And where we're going to be hiking on Sunday, is way over here. Beamer Conservation Area. We're going for a hike with Miss Mia. So let's do that. Awesomeness. Look at that. Bit of water. Slide that down, push that. Oh, if you use a decoupage and you get on your fingers, wipe your hands right away. Because it's such a strong... And I don't like calling it glue because it's more than glue. It does get on your head. It is a bit of a bugger to get your hands clean once it's dry. Even with the 1000 Plus stain remover, it is a little bit of a chore. And with the water that I'm dipping in, I'm going into the bucket that already has the gesso in it. If you're using paint, then you want to try to keep your glue separate. You don't want to get paint inside your good brushes. Let's see. Oh, I used to live here. My sister and my mom live way up here. My daughter lives way over here. So why don't we use that? So I can see where this page is going. We were over here yesterday. Hamilton's like way over here. So let's utilize. I can see where this page is going to go. This is going to be probably a family page. Lake Ontario. I don't need to keep Lake Ontario in there, so I'm just going to kind of... Perfect. And then when we get all this done, then I'm actually going to paint it over. I'm going to paint it over. I'm going to go up a little bit just so I can cut that off. I want to make sure that's all covered. And this, I'm lining this up for strength. That's the only reason. With the thought that I am going to keep this in as a bound journal, I'm putting that in just for strength. There we go. I do have one page that I'm going to do where we're going to use rice paper and paint on top of the rice paper. That's actually quite pretty. If you have a finished page on the other side, then make sure that you're wiping things down so you don't transfer the glue onto the back of the page. And we have some color. Now, composition wise, if you add too much detail on the outside edges, the viewer's eyes go directly to that. This, now, when I look at this, all I do is go down here. Not necessarily what I want to do. So I'm going to offset it with a little bit of text. Let's offset it with a bit of text. You know what? No, I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to show you how to, this is the cheating way. I'm going to show you how to get around that. That was the cheating way. Not cheating way, it was just an easier way. Again, this is just the way my process works, and there's artists out there that they do their collage much different. There's really no right or wrong way to do it, other than the technical stuff of letting the product dry and those types of things. If I wanted to, another way of doing that is to get something like this if you want to focus on a word. Now, green root. Let's get something in there. Okay. Let's get something in there. And then we'll let this dry. And then I'll work on the other page. I'm going to overlap this a bit, that way I can cut it. But this is the most, probably one of the most economical ways to strengthen a very weak base. My base was strong already, but if all you have access to is inexpensive art paper, then this is a great way. Newspapers. That's another one we're going to be doing. Collage with newspapers. You don't necessarily need gobs and gobs of product. Okay, just thin layers. And let's want something that's not too, ooh, I like that one. That's got some nice color. You can even go upside down if you want. I don't like the shape of that. There we go. Oh, I found one more spot. That's all set now. Just quickly get this. All right. Wax paper. And I put the piece on this. There we go. And I'm going to set this aside to dry. And this is going to take, I'm going to let this dry for, well, there really is no time to let it dry. It'll be dry when it's dry. I can keep working on it, but it'll take longer to dry in the long run. But because I want to do some painting on this, what I want is let this dry to the point where this is dry to touch. Okay, the whole piece doesn't have to be entirely dry, just dry to touch. And you can start seeing some transparency here, so it's really cool with how you can use some different papers. But we're going to be painting on top of this, so dry to touch. So I'm going to put this aside, I'm going to bring the other piece out, and then we'll work on that one. So I've got the other page which had the gesso on it. And I'm going to get these, now I found one that I was playing with some stenciling. I'm going to use that. These ones are kind of cool because they're all weird shapes. They're very delicate, so I wouldn't use a bristle brush to collage these down, but just going to grab a bunch. I'm going to use up these ones here because they got some edges on them. Oh, here's what book is that? These are three different books actually. Just grab a bunch of pieces. I want to start using up all these little itty bitty bits because they. Now, I don't know if you can see this. Let's see if I can do it again. The camera may not pick it up. All the dust coming up from this. when Value Village takes in these books, they check them and they clean them and all that stuff. If you're doing estate sales, be careful with the dust from estate sales, especially from old books. You don't know what's in them, so you may want to wear a dust mask. This came from a library in New York. It's got some. I like the differences in text in all this stuff. So let's see if this will be enough. We're going to go through the same process. Okay, this one here I'm going to actually, I'm going to, let's see, yeah, this is starting to stiffen up a bit. I'm going to water down the decoupage because the pages are a little bit more delicate. Now, if I was using this medium over a long period of time, I should not be using my brush to actually stir this. I should use a palette knife. If I was going to keep this medium over a long period of time, I would use distilled water. But because I'm using it right away, I find that, especially when I'm painting with acrylics too, if I use distilled water, I don't get as much mold growth if I use a covered palette. See, this is nice now, nice and soupy. And this is only because the pages will tear. The pages will tear. And then I'm going to cover the whole, now make sure that's going the right way. Oh, this one doesn't matter. I did a page, beautiful background page. Yeah, it was either Book of Backgrounds, I think it was 14 or 15. The page upside down. Now this here, I could use the whole block like this if you were going to work around it, but I'm not. I'm using this specifically as a background. So I will bring the text as close as I can to the edge. Now this isn't moving because the paper is so porous. See, and some of it comes off, which is not a bad thing because I'm going to show you what to do with that after too. There is no way on earth that I could show you everything. Because for every one technique that I think I've covered off is that, you know, you can have another artist that gives you an additional 5. So it's limitless. So for the edges, I can take this and go here, or take this and go here, but why not use the whole thing? So I'm going to just take advantage of this, and then all I do is just gonna cover this up and overlap it. Like so. Whoops. See the yellowing difference? I am going to, let's take, oh, I'll take this one and I'll show you something. I'm going to put that there, leave one little corner up because I want to show you another technique that we can just ignore that for now. And I'll just tear this. Now, with this, what are we going to do with it? Well, you kind of have to figure that out. You kind of have to, oh, no, that's stuck now. You kind of have to figure that out, what you want to do with it. Alter your shapes. Little bitty bits I want to keep for the top. Pages that are torn like this, that's fine. Depending on what you're working on, I would avoid trying to use big blocks to cover a large area unless you're going to overlap stuff to really build up the texture. But because the page is already thick, and these are already thick pages, I can turn around and just keep building. Because I want the text to really play a part in the background. I want it to overlap. And now can we do this? Is this ready? Okay, a really cool effect for a background that you want to really tear up your papers is that you decoupage it, let it dry a bit, then peel that off, and look at that. Now, this is sort of a lead up to an image transfer workshop I'm going to be also doing as part of Book of Backgrounds. The text is backwards. Isn't that cool? A little bit of water, peel that off. There we go. So that's something that you can do too. And in this page here, let's put it back. So that's something you can do. I am going to be doing something with that just to kind of give you an idea. Just if you don't have any old book pages, maybe go out to your Salvation Army or Goodwill store, Value Village, whatever part of the world you're in, and you might want to take a look. Oh, that one's going to look nice there. Now I am going to show everything. I'm not going to, do a okay, when we come back, I'll be done type of thing. I am going to show everything. Now this one here this is where the spine was glued and it's very thick. I'm going to leave that in there. I'm going to put a little bit extra decoupage right there just to make sure it does stick down. It's bumping up a little bit. So I could then take an extra page and just overlap it, just to give it that little extra something. Now this has got a big white piece. I'm going to turn it around and let's go here. So this part is a little bit boring, but like I said, oops, I'm going to go down here. I got that bottom edge. And I'm going to show everything because, people who are not so necessarily new to collage, but are learning about it. I'm covering a lot of that stuff up. Let's tear. There we go. People that are learning about it or just want some different ideas, different takes, then this is a great opportunity. That's not what I wanted to do. I don't want that white space. Oh, let's just put it here because I know I'm going to cover it up. I don't know why I did that. Where's that piece of paper? There it is. Just overlap. This is starting to thicken up just a little bit because as the water's evaporating, I'm going to add a little bit more water to it. It should be mixed with a palette knife, not a paintbrush, because it's getting right into the fair. Like I said, for stuff like this, I have one brush that I use for collaging. If it gets ruined, then it gets ruined. I'm not worried about it. I like torn. I love torn edges. Overlap. This paper is really nice for collage because it's so porous. It just sticks right into the page. Now all these white bitty bits here, I'll keep that if I have a page that's a really weak background, and I'll just use that to strengthen it where I don't really care that it's blank. But if there's an area that I actually want to use for like text, if I know I'm going to stamp something, I'll just take something like a larger area and collage that and know not to paint over it. You can see where I'm going with this. That should fit there. Let's get something with a bit of a different texture and color. That should fit there. We're going to be painting on top of this, so may not have, whoops, may not have a lot left. I want to get rid of this little itty bitty bits. You can even use it sideways. Torn pieces. It all makes for good texture. It's going to be covered up. If there is material though that you don't want to cover up, then you can be a little bit more selective as to where you put it. But this is a great method of building up your the thickness of your paper. But torn edges I find are a really, really good way to do that. You can put your pages upside down. It doesn't matter. Like this one here. I'll put this one upside down. Or sideways, I should say. Nope. Let's try again. Sometimes the paper is just so porous. It just sticks. I want to use a bit more of this dark paper. This dark paper doesn't seem to be as porous. I have a little bit of wiggle room. So you've got the general idea of how I'm doing this. Do I have one of these? No, because it goes to the outside edge. This one tears quite nicely. Tear the top and bottom so I don't have a line there. There we go. You can tear out book pages too, the words, to create actual sentences and stuff like that. You can use it for more than just building up your backgrounds. Try though, if possible, when you put a piece down, even if you put a bunch of pieces down, just kind of lap over it if you can, just to build up the strength, especially if you're working on weak paper. If you start off with good paper right up front, then you're good to go. Oh, you're not going to move. And if I tear the paper, I don't really care. Ooh, the word moment twice. Look at that. I couldn't do that again if I wanted to. And I want some of this dark. You can also pick papers that have certain words. So if I wanted to keep something with the word teacher, it's not going to be visible, so it won't matter. But you can pick certain words. There's some beautiful papers out there, scrapbooking papers you can use for collage. But if you're using the papers for collage to build up a background, and you're going to paint over it, you may not want to waste the money on expensive papers for that. Book material is just as good. Wouldn't you know it, I just short by a smidgen. I'm covering up everything. Sorry about that, I had to stop there for a second. Mia came in the room, which is fine because I think we're pretty well done. So all I gotta do, you can see that this is drying much quicker. I mean, this is almost dry to touch, but I am gonna take this, a little bit of water, to give it one coat. I don't like this line that's here. Let me break that up. Let me break that up. I don't like that hard line. Hard lines is something I don't like. Hard lines being this, that. That is a hard line, or this is a hard line. When I collage, I like stuff that's torn. See, this is a hard line as well, so I can break that up. Take another page. Now, if I did it this way, it's going to lead the eye out. Again, this is not really fine art, but I'm going to do it the right way. You can really do it any way you want. Like I said, we're going to be painting a lot of this. I don't know if I'm going to keep that. We'll see what happens. So all I'm going to do is just go over, if there's areas that I see that I have text where the paper is showing, I can take that and go upside down. Like I said, this is just as a background. So I'm not too worried about the direction of text, because this is the purpose for this background is substandard, not substandard, it's secondary. Any artwork we do is never substandard. It's secondary. This is just for a background. I got a little bit of something in the corner here. I don't really need to worry about it, but I do need a sharp corner for that one. There we go. A lot of this stuff I notice at the end, because I can see as things are drying that the white parts of the paper are showing through. I have another hard edge here which I don't like. So I could just break it up with like that. Little paper showing through. I'm not going to worry about that. I have a hard edge here. Let's break it up. If you like the hard edges, then keep it. No problem. I could turn around. I'm going to be painting this, so it's not necessary, but if you want to create some contrast, collage another something else with different color. Eventually we'll be combining much more materials for collaging for different workshops, but this is just like this is the first collage technique video in this series, so I'm going to show you the basics. There we go. And then here I can fold this over and then tear it, or I can cut it with scissors. Doesn't matter. I like the torn look better. And paper is easier to tear when it's wet. Here we go. So that's pretty good. And this part up here, it's too small to tear, so when this is all dry, I will take my scissors and cut this down. So I'm going to put all this stuff away. Ooh, I got collage material on there. Well, you know what? I can't put this back in the box, so I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it. Is there an area that I can break up? Ooh, I like that. So let's just go right over this. Let's go. Trying to figure out where that would look nice right here. So I'm going to clean all this stuff up, let this dry, and let's check the other one. Oh, there we go. That's almost ready. I can see a little bit of shine still. This is where it's still wet. It's still very cold, so you can tell when it's cold like this, it's not dry underneath. Okay, but I can paint on this right now. I will go over though and just kind of tear the edges. Be careful when you're tearing edges too on paper, especially if it's dry, because sometimes if you tear and pull up, then you'll break the seal here. All you do is if you break the seal, grab a little bit of decoupage and just kind of go back like this and let it dry, and you'll be good to go. Okay, so I'll come back in about 15-20 minutes and then we'll start. The painting I'm going to do on this will not be to completely cover it up. It'll just show how to tone the area. So this is relatively dry now, and I'm going to turn around and cut this. If you get any wet decoupage medium on your scissors, wipe them down. I was planning on stenciling some words on this as well, but I'm not going to because that'll be too much of a it'll be too predetermined on what the concept of this page is. So I'm going to still stencil, but I'm going to knock it down to something else without words. So with this now we can basically tone down the map. I still want the map to show through, but I want to neutralize it a little bit. So I'm going to show you a neat trick. You can use gesso or you can use titanium white. So not everybody has gesso, so why don't I do it with titanium white? And I'm going to put some titanium white out there. Let me just move that away. Now I'm going to add, you can add decoupage as well. I'm going to put a little bit of glazing medium in there. Titanium white is opaque. I just want to that sounds good, doesn't it? I just want to make it a little bit more transparent. And we'll just mix that up with our palette knife. This is going to be 2 layers or more. That's for something else. Let me put that brush aside. And I get my fan brush. I love doing this type of thing with my fan brush. So a dry bristle fan brush. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to scrub. And this will also keep the paint, it'll extend the drying time just a little bit. Everything's nice and transparent. And where you want something to be opaque, let it dry and apply another layer. So this part here that was a little too bright, like it was too different from everything else, so the eye just went there. If I wanted to obscure it, just a bit of gesso on that. If you don't have glazing medium, you can use a little bit of water to thin down your paint a little bit. I try not to use a heck of a lot of water when working with paper material. Okay, I'll take my heat gun. Just going to dry it slightly. Because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wipe some paint back to distress it. If I leave the paint too wet, you'll be able to you're pulling everything off. I don't want to pull everything off. I want to distress it a bit. So with a baby wipe, find the words that you want to keep. And I'm just going to touch and pull. Where's Hamilton? Right in here. I can just lightly pull that out. I can pull out some words here. Timing is everything. If you let it sit a little bit, you'll be able to pull everything out. Green root. So this, if I wipe this back and forth, it's not really coming off. If I just let it sit for a little bit, there we go. See? I want to keep Lake Ontario, not really coming off. Get it wet a little bit and rub. Oh, I may have waited a little bit too long for that one. Oh, there it goes. You can do that with edges as well. You can wipe down some edges. Okay, so that gives you something to think of. Now this is dry enough that I can work on it. And now I'm going to stencil butterflies. Now the stencil isn't big enough, and these edges already have the cut parts on them, so I can work to bring this down a little bit. But what I will do is I will not stencil this one because it doesn't go to the edge. Okay, and I won't stencil that one. So I could work it like that. Do I want to leave the page obscured just with white? I'm not sure I do. I'm thinking I want to add a little something to that. The idea, the determination for this page, and I'm looking at it right now, I could see myself doing a page like this, a green space, environment, wondering, and this is where I was going to use a text, where have all the butterflies gone? So instead, I'm going to just use this to show you as a background, not to predetermine what the page will be. But doing backgrounds like this, it makes it very easy for you to create a journal page. This is just how it's developing. So knowing that I'm going to do something with green, and I'm going to take chrome green hue, if I could say it. And oh, this is where now I need my extender. You know what? I'll use some glazing medium. I'll say about equal parts of glazing medium. And I'm going to clean that. You know what? I'm going to have to get a fresh. I don't want any white in this whatsoever. So my water's dirty, so I'm just going to get another brush. A bit more glazing medium than that. The glazing medium also acts as a barrier, and the more layers, like if you did paint, then a layer of glazing medium, then paint, glazing medium, paint, and each paint layer was transparent, more light would shine through your painting and reflecting back something very luminescent. So I'm going to come through with this. Your piece has to be dry when doing this, so let's just build this up a bit more. Rough, rough, rough. Keeping the outside edges fairly dark, not knowing if I'm going to actually work with this in I'm going to rebind it and work pages there, so I'm just going to go to the edge. Okay. Now I'm not going to use my baby wipe for this. I'm going to use my paper towel, my textured paper towel, and I'm just going to kind of push and blend. This you have to work fairly quickly. Another alternative to using the hair dryer or the heat gun. The cracking you're hearing is I'm pushing really hard on that, and I haven't put sealer on this yet, so that's why it's breaking up. And I have a page that's curling here. So once it's dry, now when working with a paper towel, you are roughing up the page. I can take a baby wipe now And I can come in and pick an area, and I want it to be rough. I don't want to have blocks like a square block. Or what I'm doing now is I'm making sure that Lake Ontario, and that this is really the only people that would understand where I'm coming from is if you actually live in the area, that Lake Ontario, and this is Hamilton. If I come up with Whitby up here, so different areas, distress the edges here a little bit. See how I'm breaking them up? Preferably with clean baby wipe. Every time you pull an area and you go to a different area, get to a clean part, because all you'd be doing is taking the green paint and putting it back. Okay, nice distressed page. With the paper towel, just kind of wipe that up. Now I can go with this now if I want to make it really luminescent, a layer of glazing medium, and then I could, you know, paint more glazing medium, but this is a background, not a finished journal page. With this now, I'm going to take my stencil. Where's my, oh, my number 8 bristle. The color theory now, the colors that are opposite on the color wheel. So if you have a color wheel like this, let me just get rid of that glare. If you have a color wheel like this, this is one of the best inventions in the world. So if we go to green, turn this to green. The green that's here is green that's more on the yellow side. So I'm going to just put it to straight green. Blue-green is the phthalo green-blue that I have. The opposite on the color wheel, opposite of green, is red. On the palette, if you were to take any green paint and any red paint, you're going to get something almost black, which I call a chromatic black. You'll get, depending on the ratio, if you add more green or more red, you'll end up with a very dull red or a very dull green. But side by side, complementary colors are absolutely beautiful when they're next to each other. That's why paintings that have apples with green grass or with green in a landscape, that's why they're always beautiful. So I can choose to paint my butterflies with a complementary color to make them pop. I also have to remember, this is a background workshop. Do I really want to make the butterflies the focus of the page, or do I want to have them have more focus? I want to do a bit of both. So what I will do with that is I will then take Naphthol Red Light, which is a warm red. Warm red. All reds are warm, right? Not necessarily. Alizarin Crimson is red that's on the blue side. Traditionally, blue is cooler. Again, color theory videos, I have to take care of all of that. With that, I'm going to put a little bit of glazing medium in there. Seriously, you're going to give me trouble now. Okay. And I'm going to be writing down, or at the end of the video, marking everything I'm using. That's why I'm putting the stuff aside, so I actually write it in the supply list at the end. Any acrylic paints, any mediums, whatever your favorites are will work. I just suggest, you know, get good quality products. I'm not a big fan of dollar store paint. Unless that's all you can afford, that's all you can afford. But note that you are going to have to use more product because the paint is usually weaker. The stencil is sticking. This is still wet. So I just have to be careful of that. Now what I'm going to do with the masking tape, I'm going to mask out the butterflies that I do not want to paint because they have an edge on them and the stencil doesn't fit. This is not being cooperative. This will also hold the stencil in place. So I want it, I don't even have to get that. So I'm just going to mask this around. What else? I just have to, sometimes when I stencil, I'm a little bit rough. So I will sometimes pounce outside the area. That must be really wet under there. So that's just going to kind of help give me some working room. Oh, and I want to tape this down. Just going to put it right here. I'm going to go into paint. I'm going to pounce the excess off here. And I'm just going to lightly. Make sure I get this little doodad here. The dots I might make a little bit stronger. You can actually use a different color if you want. But when I'm done, I'm not going to take this stencil off. I'm going to work very quickly now because I don't want the thing totally dry. So I want to show you what I'm going to do. That can go here. I love using the number 8 bristle for this. This is a worn out brush when I was doing landscape paintings. Because it's so worn out, I get different textures depending on what I'm stenciling. Rotate the brush, get a different effect. I want the dots to be a little bit stronger. The challenge I'm having with this page is because there's something so textured underneath it, the stencil is actually popping up and down. I'm going to pick one butterfly that I want to be the focus. I am going to stencil more butterflies around here. I'm not going to worry about that. I have another brush. I'm going to put this one in water. I'm going to take a baby wipe. Now I'm going to come in. This one's too strong. I'm just going to start to pat over some of the butterflies to make them a little bit more transparent. Distress them a little bit. Where they've dried a bit, that's the easiest way because this one was still wet and it was actually, the paint was smearing, so I just dabbed it. So touch and rub a bit, and if you don't see it coming up, then press a little bit harder. But if the baby wipe is nice and damp, you'll be all right. This one's not coming up, so I'm wet and a bit of a rub. And I know you have a bit of glare. And let's see. I want to make them very obscured. I'm going to choose the butterfly in this area as the primary focus. So I'm going to lift this up. And I don't even have to take the tape off. Position. Let's see. Oh, I like the one where they're up coming down like that. This is actually pretty good. I want the butterfly facing the other way though. I want it facing this way. I know I could do that with if it was upside down. You know what? I'm just going to pick this one. I'm going to make that one very, very strong. Very strong red. that up. And now I can choose to, now watch what I'm going to do with this one. I'm going to take this one, I'm going to put it here. Then I'm going to take my baby wipe, and I'm just going to clean this stencil, which puts the paint back inside. Then I have something even more subtle. I can choose to not get paint on my clothes. Yeah, really. Do I want a butterfly flying out of the page? No. I want to make sure I don't go over this. So let's... I just don't want it to be... Careful. Okay, could I do this? Do I have enough to do the same thing? No. So let me see if I can wipe the little circles out. No, it's still not enough. Okay, so I'll come in with just the dirty brush and just come in and just going to pat it out. I want these to be very light. This is the focus, this bottom butterfly. That's pretty. I do want some that are going to be like this. Right here. What do I have here? That's a whole one. And Gisele, don't rip your stencils. Oh, there we go. I'm going to turn it upside down. I'm going to use it this way. I like altering the stencils. Because I don't want a definitive pattern happening. I want to make it up as I go. But very, very subtle on the outside edges. And I need something happening here, but I don't really want to cover up the word Lake Ontario. So this one I'm going to go right to the outside edge because I don't know if I'm going to keep the journal as is. So I'm going to assume that I'm going to use the journal bound hole. Wherever I see little holes that aren't covering a butterfly, I will come in and go over the little dots, making sure I don't cover up a butterfly. And I'm going to leave that because I want to make sure that Lake Ontario is left. So do I need any more? Let me just put something here. Like so. That's too dark. What I can put in though is a couple more dots. Now I'm lazy by stenciling the dots. I could use a dabber or the tip of a paintbrush. I can just do this. There we go. Oh, green root. That's just... Am I able to... The whole area, many parts of this area is a biosphere, part of the UNESCO project. A lot of green space, government protected green space, because the escarpment is right here. beautiful. I'm going to wipe out what I can. Wipe out what I can. And I could soak this into a little bit of 1000 Plus stain remover and it'll be all right. So the other side, I just want to spend all my time cleaning my stencils on camera. And that's why my stencils are in such rough shape. And a little bit of general cleanup. This has been left to dry, so I'm going to have to mist it. I just want to put my page back down here. So that's that one. Now, I could further build up the page if I wanted to use stencils or die cuts or whatever, and I could then put my sentiment on there, my statement saying, where have all the butterflies gone? Or imagine a world without butterflies, or something like that. I'm going to leave, but this is a background demonstration. I'm going to leave this the way it is. Okay? But see how the red really pops? And I've got this one focus right here. Okay? And I've got, with my background, I've got Whitby, Lake Ontario. I've blurred out Hamilton, so green route. So people who are familiar with geography will know exactly what I'm talking about with this area, because we used to have so many butterflies. Okay? So that background page is done. And now I'm going to bring out the other one. This one's still a little bit sticky. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take this opportunity to go and clean my stencils, give this a little bit more time to dry, and to show you what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to use this is the Art Nouveau stencil. I'm going to use one stencil, but I'm going to use some homemade stuff. Well, not homemade stuff, blue box stuff. And I'm also going to use, in the Book of Backgrounds 2012 version, I didn't actually name it that, but the 2012 version of my background series, I did it in a Canson mixed media journal, which have perforations where you can tear out the pages. I wish Strathmore did the same, but so I got these pages, and I love the marks that these make. So I'm going to use this to actually stencil additional marks. And this, because it's book paper, I'm going to make the theme of this background, sort of like to predetermine where it's going, will be the words of the world. Okay, and I forgot to put this one down, so I put this one in where I stenciled the word hope on a book page. So I'm going to let this dry a little bit. I'm going to go clean my stencil, and I'll be right back. Okay, I've got this. This is, if you've been following me for a while, you know where this came from. Some scrapbooking paper. I used the cutout part, and hard to explain that. And I found this. This is really cool. And I was going to use it as a stencil, but I think I actually want to collage it for something else. So I thought this would be kind of neat for the word, but it's a little large for that. So I may end up having to do something else. What about if I did that? Or did that? I'm going to have to think about this one. Okay. What I want to do first is I want to glaze this with a layer of transparent paint. I'm going to work with no, not that one. Transparent yellow iron oxide. Now this decoupage medium, I'm going to just spray some water on top because I have a bunch more videos to do. Move aside. That's about right. And transparent red iron oxide. You really can choose any colors you want, but I want to work with transparent layers for this because remember, it is just a background. Big brush. Why don't I work with something different? Let's see. A lot of you guys have mop brushes, so Yeah, but they're too hard to clean. No, you know what? Let's stick. Oh, I don't have any more fan brushes. I was going to show you, but doing a fan technique, I'll have to show you in another video. This is nice and small. Okay. Let's work with this. I'm going to wet this in whatever water I've got. And I'm going to be doing this one without glazing medium because not everybody has glazing medium. And I want the paint to be really, really wet. And I'm just going to spray this. Not going to spray this too much because this, although this is dry to touch now, it's still kind of wet. And just yellow iron oxide, a very thin layer over everything. Look at the difference already. How that ages it instantly. And after I did this, while this was drying, I checked my email and I had recalled, I came across a post of somebody who said they had a punch that actually punched squares like this. And I thought, oh man, I could actually put that out right, like the book pages right over and then just repunched it. But not everybody has that punch. I try to keep what I'm doing where everybody can do it. And not have to go and spend a ton of money on supplies. What I did do though just now, I make a big mistake when working with transparent colors. Make sure you go and clean water, not water that has paint in it when you're working with layers, transparent layers, because especially with white paint, it makes everything chalky. Okay, so I'm going to take my heat gun now. You can let it dry naturally. You have a lot more time than I do, so I'm going to use my heat gun. And I'm not going to bother doing the heat drying off camera. You can, just to show you the difference. It doesn't take long. And as you start drying it, you'll start seeing everything flatten out. You won't see it flatten out, like the shine flatten out as much as if it was just paint. Don't forget, you've got decoupage on this as well. See, let's work down. Okay, we've got a glare there, so let's find something here. Now you should be able to see this. See how the shine is starting to really disappear? Don't look at glare. Look at up here. See? There you go. That's a good example right there. And that's what you're looking for. I'm not drying it to the point where the page is 100% dry because the decoupage is still a little bit damp underneath. That's why it's important, thin, even layers of the decoupage to ensure even drying. But man, is this page sturdy. This page is sturdy. And I'm just going to use my paper towel just to pick up any excess paint. And what it'll also do is, depending on where I'm working, it will also leave some areas of white. See that? You can also use this as collage material. And now I'm going to go in with transparent red iron oxide. This is where the fan brush is much nicer. Very dark on the outside and then feather it in to really distress the page. Okay, see that? Now I'm going to dry it right away. And then I'm going to do that again. Now if you really want to build up the luminance of your page and you have glazing medium, once this is dry, put a layer of glazing medium on there, let it dry, then you're going to do the next step again. So you're going to apply more layers of this, but just, and then don't go to the very same edges, like overlap it, and it's going to look so 3D. It does take you a lot longer because the glazing medium does take a bit of time to dry. I will be doing a page similar to this in another video. Repeat again. Come out a little bit more. Oh, Gizmo across the street is telling me the mail is here. Mia was at doggy day camp all day yesterday, and she's sleeping in the basement because Joe's working. Just feather that out a little bit. Okay, see how you have the different pockets of light and dark? If there is an area where you've put a little bit too much, you can come back and just wipe it down. I'm just going to clean up the edges a bit to show the different values. Okay, I'm going to dry that. Do you see a body there? Somebody dancing. This is the page that's developing on its own. I'm thinking, World of Words maybe doesn't follow this now. Now I'm thinking of doing something with dance or movement or something. And this is what happens when I create journal pages. The page tells me. I see, and then I go deep into thought, and I think, and I kind of do, and that's sometimes why I don't like doing detailed technique videos, because I end up creating art instead. Stop. Okay, let's go back. Oh, I really like what's happening here, though. All right. I want to do something else. I really want to do something else with this. Okay. Well, I'm really having a dilemma here, because I really want to do something else next. I'm seeing something developing, and rarely do I get so focused on something that's really speaking to me. And this page is really speaking to me, and I don't want to do what I was going to do. I don't want to ruin it. Well, this is a technique video, so let's just go and do what we're supposed to do. Okay, I don't have another bristle brush, so I'm going to take a really scruffy old scruffy flat brush, and now I'm just going to kind of go over this binder thing. And I'm not using my stencil brushes because they're too big. I don't want to make sure I don't get anything on the outside. Let's frame. I'm going to line that up. Let's frame this. Like so. And I wasn't going to do something with this, but now I don't know if I want to cover that up. Okay, you know, if I stencil it, what it'll look like, and I'm having a real dilemma about this right now because I don't want to lose this. So why don't I just stencil the flower? This is bugging me, you know that? This is really bugging me. And I don't have unlimited time to do these videos, so normally I would just basically do a reshoot and just do a different page, or do another version of this page. That's what I should do. Just do another version of this page. Yeah, let's do that. I know it won't work though. It won't be as nice as this. There's no way. There's no way. I'm going to stencil now with more of the same color. It's still transparent. I'm going to be quick about this though, because I want to wipe back some of this color. I'm not going to worry about these little corner pieces. I got to work fast though. Take this, go over here, baby wipe, clean the stencil off, try to put some of that paint back in there. There's nothing really coming off. There's not enough. Do you see circles? Nope, I don't. But I can come in and just, if you wipe like this, you're going to smear the paint. If you let it dry for a little bit, then you can gently rub. This one's a little too strong. And I'll wipe off the excess paint there. And doing that with a paper towel also helps dry this. There, now I can do that. There we are. Well, I still see a little bit of the person, not much though. And a butterfly might be nice there, or the medallion, the flower. I could turn around and collage this as well for a sentiment or a word, or just collage this right on top of this. How about I do that? Right inside the frame. If I collage that, that'll actually work out kind of nice, but I don't like the way that's sitting on the edge. I am going to end up losing this, so I could do this. If I collage this the way it is, and then with decoupage and everything, then there's a chance that I'm not going to really be able to stain this paper, this here. So let's stain the paper first. And I could, whoopsie, I didn't need to take the cap off there. You get water and a relatively clean brush. Just need a little splash there. A relatively clean brush. Is that clean? Nope. You got to get a clean brush. And I'm just gonna see what I'm doing. I'm just getting a stain going. Some areas will have one layer of stain, many layers of stain. There we go, like so. What's behind here? Does it matter if it gets wet? Nope. I'll put that right on top of that. And then, now I have to go with a clean brush for the decoupage. I didn't clean my brushes. Should have, didn't. Gonna go right over everything. Just gonna kind of gently put that out there. There we are. And I can actually just put this over the rest of the page, which will, you make it even stronger. It'll also protect. Decoupage is also a sealer, not a varnish, but it's a sealer. There we go. And what I'll do, then I'll stencil the butterfly right there. Keep the theme on the butterfly level. This is a very, very thin wash, so I'm going to Do that. Now, what color am I going to use for the butterfly for this? Why don't we keep it in the neutrals? I'm going to stencil the butterfly kind of a rustic brown. And I'm thinking burnt umber would be really, really pretty on that. But instead of using burnt umber, I will show you how to make something similar to burnt umber. We don't need a lot. So remember I was talking earlier on, chromatic black, equal parts of burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. If you want something close to Payne's gray, 2 parts ultramarine blue, 1 part burnt sienna. If you want something close to burnt umber, 2 parts burnt sienna, 1 part ultramarine blue. Voila. And that formula will change with the ratios depending on the brand of paint you use and the transparency level. You want something close to raw umber, which is brown with a bit of green in it. Tap in a little bit of chrome oxide green. Because burnt umber, the true burnt umber is a single pigment, you'll never be able to match it 100%. But this is a pretty close match. The flower or a butterfly? I did butterflies, oopsie. I did butterflies in the last one, so why don't we just do the flower? But I really want the butterfly. I really, really, really want the butterfly. Yep. And I want to place the butterfly where it's on the corner. Right here. Right on top. You could actually have used an embellishment for that, but that's decorating the page. This is still background work. A little bit more detailed background work. While that's dry, take a very textured paper towel. Oh, where is that? Okay, so this is very textured. Place it on top and push. Try to push it in as hard as you can without sliding the paper towel. Lift up. You can even keep that for something else. Now gently lift up the stencil. You get a beautiful transparent. Now, it's still a little bit too dark for me. I can take the paper towel. First, I want to use this. Let's use the excess of this. And put that right here. I don't know if there'll be enough to show butterfly. Oh, just an outline. Just an outline. If a brayer would actually work really well with that. Push that in there. A bone folder is actually pretty good too. Depending on what you're doing, if your layer underneath is very thick in collage, you may took up a little bit more. It may actually put an indentation. That's actually not too bad. Still a little bit too dark for me. I'm going to go with a baby wipe now. Get a little bit wet. And as it starts to come through, now I can come in. I'm going to come with the paper towel though. Working with the directions of the grain. Just getting rid of just a little bit. Distressing the edges. There we go. See how it's a background. Now if I wanted this to be the primary focus of the page, then I could have done something much stronger. But this is a background. This here, I could leave that for whatever I want, but you know what? I'm going to cave to my whim. Cave to my whim. I've got this really cool stencil. Come on. This one. These are peel and sticks. These ones are here patio paint for the pots and that. You can also get peel and sticks like this. This is a gloss net for glass. I love using those when there's been decoupage on there because they stick. They don't come off. Now what I will do, where's that baby brush? I will use a small brush with the same burnt umber. And I would just stencil this word, rosemary. I've been doing a lot of cooking with rosemary. So although this background, the idea that I had for this was basically going to be words of the world. I've been doing a lot of cooking, so this now has inspired me to doing something with cooking. Been using a lot of rosemary lately. Rosemary bushes are so nice to have. And I'm going to take my baby wipe. And I'm just going to gently wipe some of that down. Don't press too hard, don't want to remove it all. Just want to gently remove a little bit. Because there's words in there, you can very easily remove the entire word. Just be careful. And because it's a sticky one, if it's not dark enough, you can go back. I removed a bit too much. And just go over it again. Burnt umber, the paint itself is more opaque. Because I did it with burnt sienna and ultramarine blue, because ultramarine blue is semi-transparent, it is a more transparent mix. So even though I have burnt umber, if I want something more transparent, I can make it up with two pigments that are more transparent. There we go. Oh, beautiful. How's that? Look at that. These are so easy to clean. These are so easy to clean. So what my background started off as is now more of a journal page than a background, but there we go. So this will now kind of guide you when it comes to doing the actual decorating. I kind of have an idea where I'm going to go with this. But so we did with this we did collage, we did collage, we did collage, we did stamping. Stenciling. Stamping is something we're going to do in another one, but a little bit of color mixing. But look at that. So this is more of a wiped out area, which you can actually use to your advantage. Now, what you can also do with this now is, again, if you had the glazing medium, a layer of glazing medium over the whole thing, then you can put another wash of another color. And just keep in mind that colors mixed on the palette make up a new color, which is physical color mixing. When you layer glazes of paint, like transparent layers of paint, you're not physically mixing them up, but you will get a visual color mix because you'll have the transparent layers. As the light passes through, what you see will be all those colors mixed in together. Every layer, transparent layer you put on top of each other, it gets darker and darker and darker. Okay, so just keep that in mind when you create your page. And this is collaged on there quite nicely. I only want to do one more thing with this. And that is going to be, yeah, I can do it now. Where is it? Oh, there's my glazing medium. I am going to put glazing medium on here. I'm going to put it right on there. Now I'm going to go with a little bit of yellow iron oxide over the whole thing. Yellow iron oxide and transparent red iron oxide will make it more orange. Not everywhere though. I will do over this. This area right here. Need a little bit of water. Ugh, that was dirty water. Okay. And just my paper towel back over the butterfly. It'll only leave a little bit of the yellow. And just go around, pull up a little bit. And then you'll have areas that have more of the yellow, and then as you dab, it goes back to the original layer underneath. And there we go. So let's see, we have that one. And we have that one. So two beautiful background pages. How lovely are they? This will need a bit of time to dry, but you can see. I already know, now if I was to keep going, I already know what I would actually put here, but let's see if I can wait until the Doug series of the project, which is doing our unusual genre. And that's thanks to Deborah for naming that for me. All right, so there we go. So that's the first part of the collage. Now, as we start working towards the end of the Book of Backgrounds 2013 series, the pages are going to be a little bit more complicated, and hence they're going to be a little bit longer. So I'm going to start cutting out the on the drying time that I'm actually filming to cut that time out. Even if we save, a minute there, a minute throughout the whole video will add up to, could add up to 10 minutes. So I'll be doing that. So there we go. So that's this. So now in the that's it for this video. And for the next video, I'm going to be showing you how to do some collage with textured rice paper, and then we're going to be painting painting something on top of that. We also have where we're going to make our own. We're going to collage with tissue paper, and then we're going to make. I have some really beautiful Tim Holtz tissue paper that's printed. I'm going to show you how to make your own. What else do we have? Videos on using feathers as for texture and feathers as a resist for paint. How to make your own sprays. Oh, there's so much more to do. Okay, so I'll leave you with that. So hope you give this a shot and join me in the next video, and stay inspired.